The movie begins with a group of college students who decide to go on a snowboarding trip in the mountains. The group includes two couples, Jill with her boyfriend Derek and Maddie with her girlfriend Bree. Along with them are their friend Ed and their common friends Philip and Allison. Bree is constantly recording the trip on her camera, trying to capture every moment. However, Allison clearly doesn't like this and feels uncomfortable being filmed. Jill notices that one of her friends isn't feeling well during the journey. While driving, the group suddenly sees a police car stopped in the middle of the road. The officer tells them that a truck has overturned ahead and the road is blocked. He says it will take at least 1 hour to reopen. He then advises them to take an alternate route. Jill asks how long that route is, and the officer tells her it's nearly 80 kilometers longer. Hearing this, everyone's mood completely changes. With no other option, they decide to stop at a nearby old gas station. Jill and Allison head toward the restroom. On the way, they talk about Bree. Allison admits that she doesn't like Bree's presence at all. Allison goes into the restroom while Jill waits outside. As Jill stands there, her attention is drawn to a car parked in the corner of the gas station. She walks closer and discovers the dead body of a large bear lying there. Inside the store, Maddie and Bree are talking when Bree notices an old tour guidebook placed on the counter. The book mentions that this area was infamous in the past for witch trials. Both of them find it amusing and decide to take the book with them. As they step outside the store, a local man is seen staring at them. Meanwhile, Allison is alone in the restroom. Just as she is about to leave, the lights begin to flicker and the door suddenly shuts on its own. Panicking, Allison tries to open the door and screams Jill's name, but no one responds from outside. Outside, Jill is still staring at the dead bear when the owner of the car shows up. Jill asks him what this is. The man replies that he had set a spring trap in the forest. Jill tells him that spring traps are illegal. In a low voice, the man responds that rules don't apply here. This makes Jill angry, but Derek arrives and tries to calm her down. Suddenly, they hear Allison screaming from the restroom, break open the door, and pull Allison out. Everyone decides to leave immediately. Maddie asks what the plan is now. Todd says that he knows a shortcut route. As they drive away, the same hunter-like man is seen staring at them from a distance. On the road, Philip messages Jill, asking when they're going to tell Derek. Jill looks at the message but doesn't reply. While driving, Maddie and Bree notice the same old witch trial signboard by the roadside. To lighten the mood, Bree starts telling the group its story. She says that many years ago, some poor women in this area suddenly fell mysteriously ill. A village priest came to examine them, but couldn't understand the illness. To protect his reputation, he declared those women witches. Believing the priest's words, the entire village brutally killed those innocent women. However, the rest of the group doesn't take Bree's story seriously. After some time, they reach a deserted road with a large sign that reads, "In no passing." Everyone asks Todd if this is really the route. Todd nods and says that a service road is just a little ahead. They decide to move forward. Derek breaks the chain blocking the road, and the group drives onto the isolated path. Meanwhile, the same hunter is seen traveling elsewhere. On his radio, a weather alert announces an incoming snowstorm warning. Ignoring it, grabs his rifle and quietly disappears into the forest. The group continues driving for hours, but their destination still doesn't appear. Allison is clearly shaken, still haunted by what happened in the restroom. Suddenly, she notices a crow sitting on a branch. It feels like the crow is speaking to her. Confused, she turns to Bree and asks what the crow is saying. Bree tells her it didn't say anything. Jill then asks Allison if she's okay. Allison replies that she's fine. Sometime later, Jill wakes up to find everyone arguing with Todd. They've been driving in circles for hours. Todd insists they trust him, but Derek loses his temper and tells everyone to check their phones for the map. None of the phones have any signal. While Derek is distracted, he loses focus on the road, and the car suddenly skids and crashes. Everyone survives, but the car gets stuck deep in the snow. Furious, Derek starts yelling at Todd. Maddie tries to calm him down, but Derek refuses to listen. They all step out of the car and see that the tire is buried in the snow. Todd decides to take out the spare tire. Inside the car, Allison stares into the forest and says they will never get out of here. Derek orders everyone to get out and push the car. Meanwhile, Allison remains staring into the woods. Jill asks if she needs to use the bathroom, but Allison refuses. Jill then walks alone toward the forest. As she moves deeper inside, she begins hearing strange sounds coming from between the trees. The sounds guide her toward a mysterious, unnatural tree. Jill notices something strange, but before she can say anything, Philip suddenly shows up, startling her. At that moment, someone calls Jill's name, and she immediately heads back toward the car. Philip stays behind, but soon he also begins hearing strange whispers coming from between the trees. Back at the car, Jill realizes that Allison is missing. Panicking, she starts shouting Allison's name. The entire group rushes into the forest to search for her. After a while, they find Allison sitting beside a dead deer. Everyone freezes in shock. Jill slowly approaches her and softly asks if she's okay. Allison doesn't respond. A few seconds later, she suddenly vomits. They all rush back to the car and decide to push it together. Derek tells Allison to get behind the wheel. With everyone pushing, the car finally breaks free from the snow. As Derek bends down to tie his shoelace, Allison suddenly tries to run him over with the car. Derek jumps aside just in time. Furious, he drags Allison out of the car and tries to attack her, but the others stop him. Jill insists that they need to get out of this place immediately. Philip then notices that the car has sunk back into the snow again. Evening is setting in, and the cold is getting worse. Derek checks his phone for a signal, but there's none. He remembers that Jill briefly had reception earlier, so he asks for her phone. Jill tosses it to him. When Derek checks it, he sees a message from Philip. Confused, he decides to walk a little distance to search for a signal and takes Philip with him. After walking a short distance, Derek suddenly stops and confronts Philip. Showing him the message, he questions him about his relationship with Jill. Philip stays silent. Soon after, they return to the car. Now all of them are forced to wait, hoping someone will come and help, but no one is coming. Realizing this, they decide that someone has to go out and find help. Todd volunteers, saying he'll go and return quickly, so Allison agrees to go with him. The two of them head into the dangerous forest together. Night falls, and inside the car, the temperature drops sharply. Suddenly, a strange noise echoes from outside. Jill nervously says it's probably just an animal. But without warning, something slams hard into the car. Moments later, heavy footsteps begin crunching through the snow, slow, powerful, and terrifying, as if something massive is approaching them. Everyone quickly locks the doors. Something slams into the car again. Derek switches on the headlights, and they see Allison standing there. The moment they realize it's her, everyone rushes out and pulls Allison back into the car. Her body is covered in blood, but there are no visible deep wounds. Bree says the blood probably isn't hers. Hearing this, Maddie panics. At the same time, Maddie notices something tangled in Allison's hand. It's strands of hair. Maddie tries to get out of the car to look for Todd, but suddenly Allison's body starts convulsing violently. Terrified, Bree quickly opens Allison's bag and pulls out her anxiety medication, trying to force the pill into Allison's mouth. But Allison suddenly bites down hard on Bree's fingers. Bree screams in pain as she stumbles backward. Her head slams into a sharp metal piece inside the car. Overwhelmed by pain and fear, Bree begins thrashing uncontrollably, making the injury even worse. Philip looks at Maddie and yells for her to help Bree, but it's already too late. Bree collapses and loses consciousness. Seeing this, Derek explodes in anger and blames everything on Allison. At that moment, Maddie remembers the terrifying story from the guidebook. He says this place is cursed. Suddenly, he throws open the car door and runs out into the darkness to search for Todd. Jill panics and runs after Maddie, trying to stop him, but he ignores her and disappears into the forest to search for his brother Todd. Helpless, Jill returns to the car. Philip checks Bree and says the bleeding has mostly stopped. Taking a deep breath, Jill says they need to get out of here right now, but Derek shakes his head and says he refuses to take that crazy woman Allison with him. Jill firmly argues that they can't leave her alone out here. Philip sides with Derek, saying something is seriously wrong with Allison. And eventually they decide that leaving Allison alone would be too dangerous, so they tie her hands to prevent anything worse from happening. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Maddie is desperately searching for Todd when he suddenly notices streaks of blood in the snow. Following the trail, he shouts his brother's name. Just then, his flashlight begins to flicker, and as he steps back, he sees a horrifying sight, a crow hanging upside down from a branch. Terrified, Maddie stumbles backward, and his foot suddenly snaps into a bear trap. Back at the car, Derek finishes tying Allison's hands. Allison keeps mumbling, "I saw it." A little later, Philip steps outside to relieve himself. Seizing the moment, Derek quietly tells Jill that he knows about her secret relationship with Philip and tries to manipulate her, warning her not to trust him and claiming he's seen Philip with other girls many times. When Philip returns, Jill's behavior toward him has suddenly changed, leaving Philip confused. Around the same time, the car begins running out of fuel, causing the heater to shut off. In the forest, Maddie screams in agony as he struggles to free himself from the trap. Fighting through fear and pain, he finally manages to break free, but his leg is bleeding badly, and the freezing air makes the pain even worse. Inside the car, everyone starts searching for extra clothes to keep themselves warm. Philip opens a small box and finds some candles inside. Jill lights one of the candles, but at that very moment, strange sounds start coming from Allison, making everyone freeze in fear. Meanwhile, Maddie keeps crawling through the snow toward the car. Suddenly, he notices a faint light ahead and thinks it might be Todd. He drags himself closer, only to find an abandoned flashlight lying there instead. Back inside the car, Allison's disturbing noises don't stop. Derek angrily tells Jill to do something. Suddenly, Allison starts muttering, "I can't save you. You're all going to die." Enraged, Derek tries to drag Allison out of the car, but Jill immediately pulls out a knife and stops him. Philip sides with Derek and forcefully takes the knife from Jill's hand. Just then, all three of them hear a phone ringing somewhere deep in the forest. Hearing this, they rush in that direction, leaving Bree alone inside the car. When Bree regains consciousness, she sees Allison smashing her head violently against the car window. Terrified, Bree tries to grab a metal rod lying nearby, but before she can react, Allison lunges at her. Bree's scream echoes through the forest. Jill hears the scream and runs toward the car, but slips on the ice and falls. Philip tries to help her, but Jill stops him and both of them return to the car, only to realize that the door is locked from the inside. Seeing this, Philip goes back into the forest to look for Derek because Derek has the car keys. Elsewhere, Derek tries to use the phone when he suddenly hears footsteps approaching. As he turns around, he sees Allison standing there. She coldly says, "You left me to die." Terrified, Derek runs away and hides somewhere in the forest. At the same time, Derek senses someone approaching him again. Derek attacks and kills him, but it turns out to be Philip, who dies after being struck by mistake. Jill breaks the car window using the knob and climbs inside, only to find Bree's lifeless body lying there. The sight horrifies her. Just then, Derek arrives, his face pale and shaken, gasping as he says that Allison attacked him and that this place is truly cursed. Seeing the blood, Jill asks where Philip is, but Derek only keeps muttering. He says that she is punishing them. Jill, confused, asks who he is talking about. Trembling, Derek says he was there, but didn't know this would happen. Suddenly, Allison's voice is heard from outside. Jill tightly grips a metal rod as Allison slowly approaches Derek and asks him to come with her. Derek begins behaving strangely, and seeing this, Jill leaves him behind and runs away. Now alone, Jill ventures into the forest to find help. On the way, she finds Philip's dead body and breaks down in tears. Then she hears a voice in the distance and runs toward it. But the sound of something terrifying follows closely behind her. Suddenly, Allison appears in front of her, slowly advancing toward Jill with a screwdriver in hand. Jill starts believing that Derek was right and that Allison is responsible for everything. She manages to snatch the weapon from Allison and knock her to the ground. Allison begs her, saying she hasn't done anything. But in panic and fear, Jill finally strikes her, killing Allison on the spot. At that moment, a gunshot echoes from behind, and a hunter shouts a warning to stay back. The next morning, police arrive at the scene and find blood and bodies scattered everywhere. An officer asks Jill what happened there, but she only mutters that Allison was possessed by some spirit and killed everyone. There's a strange glint in her eyes, as if she herself is now under the control of some unknown force.